Welcome to On the Chain.
Let's get into some Jimmy Fallon news right here. Let's go look at this. So Jimmy Fallon, wait a minute, hang on a second here. Sorry about that. I got to reshare my screen. I wish they would make this simpler, but we're going to go jump into some Jimmy Fallon. I'm like, that's not Jimmy Fallon. There he is, Jimmy Fallon right there. XRP community. So here's some more SEC v. Ripple. Court denies the Ripple defendant's motion to strike the Metz report, reopens discovery until May 13th. The redeposed Dr. Metz. The SEC ordered to pay reasonable expenses. And I think with the kind of attorneys that Ripple has, I don't think there's anything reasonable. They're probably like $1,000, $1,400, $2,000 an hour. It's some outlandish price, but it's going to be very expensive. Reasonable expenses regarding the filing of the motion and redeposing Metz. That's because they were slippery about it. They were very dirty about it, the way that they pulled this off. And the court criticizes the SEC in the document, finding that the SEC conducted itself improperly by serving an unauthorized supplemental report on the last day of discovery. Again, it's just a dirty bird move where they slipped it in at the last minute, and they know they're going to get some criticism from the judge. But again, a really dirty pool type of trick, and they did, but the judge declined to strike the Metz supplemental report. And there was something else. There was actually another really good comment here. Yeah, Anders L says, I think, and I like where he's coming from. He says, I think the Metz report will actually hurt the SEC since Ripple will be able to easily disprove the arguments made, and thus the SEC can't prove the efforts of others in the Howey test. A fantastic observation. And probably when they tried to sneak it in the last day, knowing it's weak, cannot be defended, the SEC seems like the lawsuit itself, and boom, 2 big stars for me right there. And I really like that take on it a lot. I think that's very apropos. It's spot on in my thing, because, you know, if you're going to get a doctor who's supposedly this Dr. Metz, who's like this cryptocurrency like guru, and is going to sit there and tell you that digital asset is a security, you know, I mean, where do they find this guy? Hidden under a rock somewhere? So yeah, you can say and profess everything you want to say. However, go ahead and prove it. And I like where Anders L is coming from in that one there. Next up, we've got something from none other than another James Fallon here. It was his tweet, but Jeremy Hogan made a nice comment on this. I wanted to put this up there. That was what the tweet we just looked at. Jeremy Hogan said, you know, this type of ruling drives me crazy in my own practice, and no less here. What good is an ordered deadline if it's not enforced? It's a good point. I understand the judge wants to preempt issues on appeal, but this was so blatant that I hoped she would do more than just force the SEC to pay some money. That's a really well executed point right there. And then Jeremy goes on to say that, but at the end of the day, this won't change any of the final court dates that seem to be what Judge Netburn thinks is the most important factor. It's just one of my pet peeves, I guess. An order is an order. Okay, I'm good. Calm and good. And of course, he's got this right here. The Jim Carrey pulling his hair out meme. So, yeah. And, you know, again, if they went to an appellate court, you can't necessarily say that they weren't given every possible opportunity and every delay that they requested and asked for. And yeah, they added the supplemental Metz report on the very last day of discovery. They snuck it in right under the radar there. You know, who starts to look bad in all this? It starts to look a lot like the SEC. When they don't have a case and all they can do is delay, that's what they've been doing, and they've been doing it very well. But it's sad in a lot of ways that that's kind of where their come from is. Next up, we've got a summary. Well, actually, I got two of these to share with you today, whenever you're watching this. There is 2 summary judgments, and we're going to look at the first one. This one here, summary judgment timeline. Let's go ahead and put this big full screen here. Summary judgment timeline. This is from none other than Jimmy Fallon. He says, I'm seeing a lot of discussion of timing projections for the filing of a summary judgment motions and a decision on those motions. I thought I would weigh in because Judge Torres has a very particular and very complicated process that must be completed before the motions of summary judgment can be filed. Now, this is always great too. We see Jimmy Fallon, basically when he when he sits there, I mean, he's the first one. He's right on. As soon as the document's released, we know about it. It's up there. It's for the whole world to know. I mean, it's incredible what he does out of the goodness of his own heart. But when he weighs in, that's an extra treat. So he goes on to say here that the point of the thread is to help you understand that this is a longer process than you may realize. And everybody's like, oh no, God, why did you say that, Jimmy Fallon? Why? You know, what does that mean exactly? Well, first, any party that wants to move for summary judgment has to provide the other parties an electronic copy in Microsoft Word format of its statement of material facts pursuant to Local Rule 56.1. A Local Rule 56.1 statement is a short and concise statement, like the SEC is horrific, something like that. I don't know what it would be. That's a short and concise statement. Number 4, numbered paragraphs, the material facts as to which the moving party contends there is no genuine issue to be tried. In parentheses, a material fact is one that must be resolved to make a decision on the motions. And it's great watching these numbers change, meaning people are liking these actually in real time as we're watching this here. If you're listening to the podcast, you can just see the numbers change. And then the party moving for summary judgment must at the same time provide the other parties any admissible evidence cited in its Rule 56.1 statement that has not previously been produced during discovery. They only have to produce evidence that's admissible, so that wouldn't include documents the court previously said the parties did not have to give the other side. For example, Brad and Chris's personal financial information or the Estabrook notes. Then the party opposing the motion for summary judgment has to reproduce each entry in the moving party's Rule 56.1 statement and then write its response directly beneath it. After that, the party moving for summary judgment has to email and file on the docket for us to see. Are you guys following along with this? A lot of stuff to happen. Then a pre-motion letter to Judge Torres explaining to her the basis for its anticipated motion for the summary judgment and attaching the opposing party's response to Rule 56.1 statement, which will show whether and which material facts the parties agree on, if any at all, right? And then the party opposing summary judgment has to email Judge Torres and file on the docket a letter explaining why it's opposing the motion. After that, Judge Torres will review everything and inform the parties whether a motion for summary judgment is warranted, and if so, set a briefing schedule for the filing of the motions. Only then can the motions be filed. So that's a lot of stuff that has to happen before these motions get filed. Now the parties are submitting a proposed schedule this Friday. It's technically possible that the parties will agree to waive the requirements of pre-motion letters and the exchange of Rule 56.1 statement of facts. What's the odds of that happening? I don't know. I have to think that Ripple, Brad, and Chris would want to waive these requirements, would be pushing very hard for a faster schedule. But with the SEC delaying this case at every turn, you really must wonder if the SEC would ever agree to the waiver and make this battle less cumbersome or faster for anyone, even for Judge Torres. Even if the parties agree to waive the requirements, Judge Torres has to agree to that waiver. On top of all this, and remember that the expert discovery has been reopened until May 13th for the Dr. Metz deposition and the filing of the Ripple defendant's supplemental rebuttal report. Also, I expect that the parties will challenge some of the other parties' experts, although I expect that to be part of the summary judgment process. The amicus briefs also have to be reviewed. The point is that all of this adds to the time it will take for the Judge Torres, to make a decision, because those challenges have to be decided. All of this is very complicated and will be slower than we want. I don't want you to be disappointed when the briefing schedule comes out. I don't think we'll see a schedule that contemplates briefing beginning in June. I think that that's more a realistic timeline for summary judgment motions, would be opening briefs for either July or August, and then all briefings completed by either October or November. The issue of the Hinman documents and emails still being decided, but I think the decision on that would be made while the summary judgment motions are pending, which is why I believe, and this is Jimmy Fallon saying, why I believe the Ripple defendants have said they're prepared to go forward on summary judgment before that issue is decided. And for reference, Judge Torres recently issued a summary judgment ruling in a complicated case involving a gender discrimination claims against Goldman Sachs. The briefing in that case was was completed last year in November, and the decision was issued in mid-March of this year. The point is, this is a complicated case and will continue to take time, more time than we want, and that's the end. So yeah, there's a lot going on there, a lot to unpack. Jim D says the judge should just get tough and charge the SEC with contempt of court, using every stall tactic when they are the prosecution. Enough of the circus, mockery of law. That's right, but a lot of times I see where you're going with that, Jim D. But here's the other part of it. When you look back at this case, and for example, if it ever showed up at an appellate level, or anybody was they were whatever the summary judgment is, whatever ends up happening with this, they're going to have very little recourse, because the judge has basically insulated every part of this, every delay they've asked for. We know they had discovery for 2+ years, and yet it wasn't long enough. We need more time. Everybody needs more time. So that's an interesting, really, really phenomenally unpacked by Jimmy Filan. Thank you, Jimmy. Really appreciate that. And who else would weigh in on this? None other than the mighty John Deaton. We know him better as the Deaton. He's the superhero, the Deaton. And we're going to throw this up here as well. Let's throw this up on screen. So John Deaton read Jimmy's thread. He reviewed Judge Torres's local rules related to the summary judgment schedule. As usual, when Jimmy Filan tweets or speaks, we should listen. He says read his thread, but we've already done that. He said the issue right now, as Jimmy points out, is regarding the parties have to comply with their normal process. Goes on to say, this is important for amicus brief because if they file pre-motion letters, it will provide us with a lot of information each side is relying on. For example, evidence, exhibits, deposition testimony, etc. After reading those pre-motion letters, I will know what info to ask to review. If the parties ask and she agrees to waive the normal process and there are no pre-motion letters, then the court sets dates. We won't get to see any information until the motions are filed. If that happens, I'll have to figure out the best approach to gain access to that information. Also, remember, there are 16 experts in this case. That guarantees motions to exclude experts entirely or parts of their testimony. We have no idea regarding which expert deadlines will be before summary judgment or filed simultaneously. Bottom line, we'll know more on Friday. Jimmy's thread is 100% on point. Previously, I was asked for the best and worst case scenario. I said best case September, worst case late December. After more careful consideration, absent a settlement, best case is for late December. So, and again, it's hard to know, and he puts a little sad emoji there. But again, we just don't know where this is going. But it's going to take a little bit of time. The better part of it is, even if it is December, one thing I think we can all be rest assured about is that we're closer. We're already past the halfway point. Did we know what that point would be? No, but I think we're pretty safe in saying that I believe we're past that halfway point.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.